Hi, lovely humans. Lisa here from Mindful Tarot with a weekly reading. And this week I'm working with Eden Gallanter's Cheimonette Tarot. Chaimon in Greek means storm. So this is her Little Storm Tarot deck. And the Little Storm for Eden is the kind of productive chaos that she identifies with creativity, with um, the activity of bringing our forces um, into play as we seek to transform ourselves and our world. It's a really deep and beautiful deck, a self-published deck. I'll put the link to her website below. And I'm trying to learn it. It's a deck with Thoth characteristics and also Rider-Waite characteristics, and then like something like the Marielle is just, it unleashes this imagery which invites us in and pushes us out and ties us up in knots, and it's I love it. I don't get it yet, and I love it. So in order for me to kind of dive into it, I'm going to be hosting a Little Storm Challenge in June, and I'll say more about that in the days ahead, and then here on this channel, and then also on my Instagram feed, which is also called Mindful Tarot. But for now, a little sort of foretaste of that challenge, perhaps, and an opportunity to kind of explore our own creative inner storm. I'm cutting the deck in three to do my Chariot spread, and that's a spread that uses the center card, in this case, the Ace of Swords, as the anchor for the governing theme or issue or emerging principle energy in the week. And then the two cards that flank, like in the Chariot tarot card, the Trump, the two cards that flank this center governing driving force are the kind of competing or complementary themes, images to help us either realize or meet this governing theme. So the Ace of Swords, very much for Eden, the swords are the suit of the intellect, and the intellect as that capacity that allows us to analyze and dissect and create, very much creating by pulling apart, by analyzing. The sigil, each of her suits has a sigil, and the sigil of the swords is the moth, which she associates with death. Her death trump has, you can see the moth, oops, right in that corner. Her death card really features that imagery of the moth. And for her, the way in which the swords move toward death is that kind of intellectual realization of how life leads to death, grows out of death, how death is an essential component of life, and then this way in which our minds can just deconstruct and disengage and detangle and detach. So here's a city in the background, and over the course of this suit, as it moves from Ace through 10, that city will be crumbled away. The intellect, the mind of man for Eden is always willing to meet its own demise, to see the edges of self, to court a kind of ego death. So if that's the energy, this kind of fearless mental capacity to meet the limits of our universe as we know them, and to poke beyond those limits, that's the central guiding force of this week, right? Our capacity to go beyond ourselves, even if that means that kind of honesty of the mind, of our capacious human understanding, that depth and integrity, our willingness to unleash that, to meet the corners of our world and push beyond them, is also our willingness to contemplate our death, to contemplate the end of what we can control. So a governing theme this week, our capacity to be free, means our willingness really to go beyond who and what we know. A terrifying prospect. but one that we humans are uniquely able to engage. Now, hopefully, the two cards on the side of the Ace of Swords will tell us how we do this, because it's scary. It's scary to go beyond. Okay, so Eden has three world cards in her deck. This is the first of the three, and this central snake in the last of the three world cards, it looks like a kind of black hole, a kind of, or a pupil, you know, the sort of place from which light emits or falls into. But okay, this capacity to lean into the wholeness, the completeness of the world, to recognize that from one angle we might be poking at the boundaries of what we know, but we also have this capacity within us to apprehend the whole of the world and to drive toward a sense of completeness, a sense of fulfillment, trusting in that capacity of ours. For me, I often find that sense of wholeness and completeness, I find that in meditation. As I sit on my cushion and I allow what I know to bubble up and then to kind of dissipate, right? Keeping my mind and heart open as I just literally sit on my ass meditating. If I can linger in that space mindfully, heartfully, a sense of wholeness emerges, even in the wake of that kind of dissolution of the world that I think I know. Right? That way in which when we meditate, our willingness to just let it all go for now. Like my plans for what I'm going to make for dinner, the work tasks for tomorrow, the itch in my knee, the ache in my elbow, just let those things just drop. That's courting a kind of death of ego, but it's also enabling a kind of recognition of wholeness, of boundlessness of the world. And the other, I've been getting this card a lot, justice. So, there we have the sword again. So justice, there's the wholeness of the world, but then there's our capacity to discriminate, this or that, good or bad, black or white, finding balance. So not just like oozy goozy, the self disappears and it's all this like, oh man, like I'm at one with everything. There's also still in that moment of encountering boundlessness, the willingness to still see the sides of things, to find balance, to seek equilibrium, to seek a center point from which the world in its good and bad, black or white, left or right, also emerges. As I read these three cards, for me, justice and the world really are the two sides of the Ace of Swords, of this capacity of our mind to both encounter boundlessness, but then also to discriminate. And this reading is asking us to see the ways in which our minds, our hearts, are capable of wholeness and capable of discrimination. And we need to balance those two forces within us in order to fully realize the potential of our own creative spark. Balance and wholeness. Cutting through, allowing the self to be full and complete. Well, let's check it out this week. I hope you have a week that's full of boundless equilibrium and also great joy and fun. The sun is shining here in Oregon, which is not always the case, so my day is bright. May yours be as well. Take good care.